To get unstuck, we need 3 things: confidence, clarity, and new opportunities align with our career sweet spot. In the last episode, we saw how, coincidentally, personal branding produces these 3 unstuck ingredients. And this is why I believe that building a personal brand is one of the best ways to get unstuck from an unfulfilling career or a dead-end job search. So now that we've reviewed what those personal branding steps are in the last episode, we're going to be diving into the first one, which is all about laying a strong foundation before beginning our journeys to getting unstuck. As we begin to lay this foundation, I need to re-emphasize how important it is to move slowly and with intention. Remember, if we find ourselves stuck in our careers, just like with quicksand, we want to avoid taking unfocused, frantic action because this only drains our energy and leaves us feeling even more stuck than before. We know that one of the most crucial steps to getting unstuck from both quicksand and our careers is to take slow, deliberate, and focused action. And that's exactly what we're going to be discussing in today's episode as we begin to create a plan before beginning our personal branding journey so that we can move slowly and with intention. And it's so important that we accept and try to be comfortable with this slower pace and more measured approach. And when I was stuck, this was incredibly difficult for me. As an ambitious high achiever who always pushed herself to the max and worked tirelessly to gain the approval from others, slowing down and prioritizing my needs created a lot of internal resistance within me. You will likely feel similar, and that is totally normal. I invite you to sit with these emotions and understand that they are just a byproduct of the people-pleasing hustle culture that we've been raised in. So as we begin with the first step in my personal branding process by laying a strong foundation before beginning, please remember and reinforce with yourself that we are not operating from that hustle mentality anymore. With that being said, let's begin with the first action step within laying the foundation. And this is all about uncovering our motivations for getting unstuck. It's so important before we begin this process to define a strong sense of why so that it can lend us the determination, stamina, and drive required to both begin and carry out this process. Not so that we can hustle, but so that we can stick with it over time. These are called our motivators, and as they sound, they're meant to motivate us to continue moving forward in the face of discomfort and challenge. Now, in part 1 of the accompanying worksheet, which you can access by clicking the link in the description box below, we're going to start by reviewing all the potential motivators I've listed. In this list are statements like, I want more personal freedom, I want to be closer to my family, I want to leave a lasting impact. There's also some space at the end to add your own motivators under the other category, and I invite you to do this, especially if the ones I've listed don't seem to resonate with you enough. So as you go through all the motivators I've listed, as well as the ones that you've added, and there are quite a few on there, circle the ones that seem to really resonate with you. Then go back and pick your top 3. Write these on the worksheet or anywhere where you'll be able to see them regularly. This might just be on a sticky note that you put on your mirror. Just be sure that the ones you choose actually matter to you and feed your soul. Don't just choose the ones you think you should be motivated by. Listen to your intuition. This is your personal why. And these may not be very conventional motivators, and that is perfectly okay. They just need to work for you and act as a North Star on your journey to getting unstuck. Now we want to build our Unstuck dashboard. An Unstuck dashboard is a collection of metrics that you'll be tracking to act as a readout of where you are in your journey. This will help you navigate the trip and monitor your status over time. But before we choose our metrics, we want to reflect on all dimensions of our career and personal lives. Our finances, health, career growth, relationships, family, fun, well-being, personal development, fitness, adventure, wealth, free time. These metrics you choose to track will be unique to you and depend on what matters most to you. So for example, when I was building this for myself when I was really stuck and on my leave of absence, 2 of the most important metrics that I included on my dashboard were my mental health and my physical health. These were things I refused to compromise on my journey to getting unstuck and building my personal brand because I had just had a very extreme, painful experience with burnout, and I desperately wanted to avoid that happening again. I used my dashboard to keep tabs on how my mental health and physical health were doing over time. This allowed me to be sure that I was staying on track and honoring my needs. I also used this readout of my health to help me make decisions. So for example, if I had already taken on projects A, B, and C, and I was presented with a new opportunity, I would check in with myself and ask, can I afford to add something to my plate right now? Do I think this will overload me and compromise my mental or physical health in some way? If yes, then I would decline the opportunity. I'm keeping my priorities in the forefront with my Unstuck dashboard metrics. So I want you to use your dashboard in a similar way. Allow it to act as a guidepost on your journey to not only track your progress against what matters most to you, but also to help you make decisions. So before choosing your metrics, consider some of the reflection questions I've included in part 2 of the worksheet, as these should help you uncover which you want to include in your dashboard. There are questions like, what am I willing to give up during this process? What am I not willing to give up? What are my non-negotiables? For example, you may really value the 1 hour per day that you spend at the gym, and you are not willing to compromise on this. Your fitness and the time you spend at the gym may be something you want to include on your dashboard. Because the reality is, as we go on this journey, we are going to have to put in work and tackle different challenges. We have to remove some things from our plate in order to make space for getting unstuck and building our personal brand. I do not say this to scare or overwhelm you. Remember, we are not hustling, but we are taking slow, intentional action. So use this as an opportunity to be honest with yourself about your real needs and where you may be unintentionally or unnecessarily giving away your energy or power. We want to reclaim this from the people or things that drain us so that we can siphon this energy back into ourselves and our own journey. So ask yourself, what are you doing because you think you should or because you're trying to please someone else? Can you offload these things by applying the 3 Ds? Can you delegate it, delete it, or delay it? After going through these reflection questions, decide on the 3 to 5 metrics that are most important to track on your journey and write them down on the worksheet, or again, anywhere else where you can see them regularly. We want to keep these top of mind. And then after you choose these metrics, decide what the red zones are for each so you'll know when you're straying off track and need to correct course. So for example, a red zone for me when looking at my mental health may be isolating myself and ignoring texts from friends. I know that when I avoid this kind of interaction, it's signaling to me that I'm struggling with my mental health. So think about what are those red zones for you for each of the metrics you select, so you can be sure you're maintaining the priorities you've set for yourself. So up until this point, we've been thinking about our intentions and priorities pretty broadly. Now we are going to try to crystallize some of this into SMART goals for both our personal lives and careers. They're called SMART goals because SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. When you create a SMART goal, you are much more likely to achieve it than if you are to create a vague or general goal. Starting with your personal goals, use some of the questions in part 3 of the worksheet to reflect on your personal life. This will feel similar to our dashboard exercises, but now we're digging a little deeper. Ask yourself things like, how do I want to spend my time? What areas of my personal life are most important to me? There are about 5 or so questions here. Right now, as we find ourselves stuck and experience all of the challenging feelings, emotions, physical effects that come with that, it's more important than ever that we pay attention to our personal needs and nurture ourselves without guilt. We need to try our best to nourish our bodies with regular self-care, time in nature, nutritious and satisfying meals, alone time, and to avoid overwhelming ourselves and adding to the confusion that we're probably already experiencing, we're only going to be setting short-term personal goals, so looking at the next 12 months. For example, a SMART personal goal could be, I will meditate for 10 minutes a day every weekday at 8 a.m. starting on September 10th, 2022. This goal is specific and measurable because we know we're meditating for 10 minutes a day and we know when we're doing that, each weekday at 8 a.m. It's achievable and realistic because we've already been consistently meditating for 7 minutes a day, so jumping up to 10 minutes won't be too big of a jump for us. And finally, it's time-bound because we know when we're starting this, on September 10th, 2022. So now in part 3 of the worksheet or anywhere else where you'll be able to see these goals regularly, write down your short-term personal goals for the next 12 months and make sure they're SMART. I wouldn't recommend typing them up because there have been many studies that prove the efficacy of actually physically writing them down. This makes you more likely to achieve it. And ideally, you should also schedule time into your most frequently used calendar to make progress on these goals. So for example, I would create a recurring 10-minute event starting on September 10th, 2022, for each weekday at 8 a.m. called Meditate. Now, before we begin setting any smart career goals, we need to get ourselves in a headspace to dream big and without any restrictions or limitations. So in part 4 of the worksheet, we're going to begin our dream career brainstorm. When you do this, find a spot where you won't be disturbed, put all your devices on D&D, put some relaxing music on, light a candle, get out your favorite journal, and give yourself 20 to 30 minutes or more to write down everything and anything you can possibly think of what you would like to achieve in your career. I don't care how out of the box or infeasible it may sound. Just ask yourself, if I could be anything, do anything, have anything, what would that look like? So maybe you want to write a book, host live events, get a job in the tech industry, start a podcast, give a TED Talk, open your own private practice, really whatever. Just think of this as a wish list for your career and write down everything and anything that comes to mind. Again, don't worry about trying to be realistic and do not try to justify anything. During this exercise, your inner critic will probably try to convince you of all the reasons why you're not capable of achieving these goals. Limiting beliefs, insecurities, self-doubts are likely going to come up, and you may even experience embarrassment, fear, guilt, anxiety about dreaming this big. This is okay and totally normal. Just do your best to silence these voices and don't let them influence what you write down during this dream vision exercise. Just focus on infinite possibilities and potential and surrender to whatever comes up. And after you've completed this dream career brainstorm, go back and circle the one thing from that list that excites you most right now. This thing may or may not ladder back to the career goals you set in the next activity. If it does, great. If it doesn't, still keep this list to look back on for future reference. You never know what insights or ideas this activity could spark. Before we create our smart career goals, I want to call out that you may not be ready to get into this level of specificity just yet. You may need way more clarity on your career sweet spot, which we're going to be figuring out in the next step of my personal branding process, which is all about finding your niche. But for those of us that have a pretty good idea of what we want to do and where we want to go, reflect on the questions in part 5 of the worksheet and then set smart career goals for the next 12 months. For those of us that are still too unclear, please feel free to skip this activity and come back to it at a later time. Once we get into finding our niche and building our brand identity and creating content, we'll have a ton of more personal clarity, and it will be a lot easier to figure out what our smart short-term career goals should be. And we'll be diving into all of this in the episodes to come, so be sure you're subscribed to Project Unstuck by clicking the link in the description box below. And finally, if you were able to set both smart career goals and smart personal goals, use the questions in part 5 of the worksheet to reflect on the alignment or lack thereof between these two different types of goals. If you see conflict between your personal goals and your career goals, you may need to go back and edit them a bit. We need to get them to a place where they're more realistic, achievable, and can exist together without compromising any of our priorities or the metrics that we've put on our dashboard. In the next episode, we are going to be unpacking and rewiring our limiting beliefs so that we can foster our bulletproof mindset. Because the truth is, we are our own biggest blocks to getting unstuck, and we're gonna learn how to get out of our own way. We'll be reprogramming our subconscious and setting up our mindset for success so that we can begin to create unstuck ingredient number 1, which is confidence. So if you are a natural born leader who feels trapped in an unfulfilling job or futile job search, please be sure to join Project Unstuck by clicking the link in the description box below. It is completely free. Together, we will learn how to build our confidence, create clarity, and attract aligned opportunities through a very powerful but unexpected approach, which is developing our personal brands. Not because we want to become famous, but because the process of developing a personal brand produces these ingredients that we need to get unstuck professionally. In each episode, we explore a crucial question, obstacle, or action step, and share practical templates, worksheets, and prompts to help us achieve these 3 critical ingredients to getting unstuck: confidence, clarity, and aligned opportunities. So don't forget to subscribe to Project Unstuck, and I will see you in the next episode.